What's up, everybody? Welcome to week 3 of mobile application programming. First thing, I have a test that's posted. It's not too long. And let's see, under homework. All these that are in gray you won't see. I have them disabled, I just didn't delete them. So the grade exemption is there, which we talked about before, and then test 1 is there. That's like, it's only like 10 or 11 questions, multiple choice, true, false. Nothing too crazy. So check that out. And tonight, I want to go over, first off, I want to talk about COBOL in New Jersey. Saw this in the news. The governor of New Jersey, I think, talked about this in a news conference. And yeah, yesterday, Governor Phil Murphy asked for the help of volunteer coders who still knew how to work in COBOL. So yeah, interesting situation. There's, like I said before, there's a lot of this old code that's out there. I shouldn't even say old code, legacy code. It's code that's still used. Um, whether it's COBOL, Fortran, that kind of stuff. I think COBOL is probably the biggest one. But very interesting situation. Uh, Anyways, so the test. Check out the test. Like I said, just a few questions, multiple choice, true, false, that kind of thing. And then we'll get into React Native. So the topic for this week is setting up React Native like we did before, getting that working. I want to make sure that we covered that as part of this segment because I think React Native is important. I think that Flutter and Dart are good. I think they've reached some level of usage. If we look at like React Native and Flutter and see if we can get some live stats right now. And this is what I usually see whenever I try to look for a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of people talking about like what to use. Let's see what this has for numbers. +50 Flutter courses versus 35, and those numbers are kind of old anyways. I think that the idea here is really similar to JavaScript frameworks. There's Vue.js. There's a lot of different UI front ends you can use. You can use things like Electron, right? There's a bunch of different frameworks, JavaScript frameworks you can use for the front end of applications. There's a bunch of different frameworks you can use for mobile application development also. And I think the important part here is not getting stuck with one or thinking that, oh, I don't need to know other ones. I don't need to understand this stuff. I'm not interested in going into a mobile app specifically. I think even if you're not interested in going to mobile application specifically, there's something important here about understanding, analyzing what's out there in terms of solutions. If you're going to provide solutions, what the differences are, what's going on with trends, how to figure those out, to keep up with what's going on. Like when I started mobile application development, that could you could do stuff with Windows devices, BlackBerry devices, Android, and iOS, and all the frameworks and toolkits have changed significantly. Every time I teach the class, it's different, on purpose because I want to keep up with exactly what's going on out there, because that's important. And so, anyways, React Native is part of that in terms of there's a segment of it a segment of people that are using it. That segment could grow. It could become bigger than Flutter. Um, we're not really sure, right? So, and there's a lot of advantages to it, right? There's speed. There's native components on both sides, right, from one code base. It's very easy to set up, as we'll see in a minute. Very easy to use. So let me close up some of my VS Code windows here. And as I see through my steps here, I need to open up VS Code. And then I'm going to add my React extension, right? Somehow I'm listening to Eminem featuring Marilyn Manson. I don't think that's quite the right song. Mm-mm. Okay, so our React Native tools are installed. We are just basically gonna install Expo and use Expo, right? That does like everything for us. This is setting up on Ubuntu, excuse me. So Expo, this is probably not the best one to start with an extra. Let's start with Expo's top repository. So Expo is a free and open source platform for making universal native apps with React that run on Android, iOS, and the web. The idea is that Expo gives us the example project. It creates the emulator that we can run. It allows us to connect to their service and then use a QR code to connect an Android or iOS device to the application at the same time, right? We did this before in class. So we can do hot reload all across the place. So this platform allows us to make these native apps for Android, iOS, and the web, and experience hot reload for testing. So I can change some code and see that on the device right after I change it. So this does all of it for us, basically. Once we have the extension in VS Code, the next thing that I have is I just want to open a folder, some place where I'm going to put this. So in this example, let's see, do I have a GitHub repo here? Nah, I think I was putting stuff on the root of the D drive. So we'll do this here. We'll have this will be our expo-example. So, sorry. We opened VS Code, we added the React extension, then we made some folder to put it in. And then we're going to open a terminal in that folder. I already have, this is assuming of course that I have Node.js installed already, right? So if I haven't, I'm going to install Node.js, right? Probably the LTS, that's good. The LTS, the long-term support versus the current. I think we talked about this before, but the idea is there could be third-party pieces that support the LTS, but not the current in some cases. And like they say, it's recommended for most users, but this is going to be supported for a long time. Everybody knows that, so people support it on their third-party pieces too, so why not go with it? So we get the long-term support set up, LTS, Node.js, then we're going to run this npm install command so that we can install the expo npm install expo-cli-g, so we can install the expo command line interface and using -g for global.
One eternity later.
Alright, so I got logged into my expo account, and then in here I've done my npm install. So once I've done my npm install, I just have to do my expo init to initialize my expo and then start it. So expo init, and I'm going to pick the tabs example just to have something to start with, and we're going to call this expo template, and then this is going to download my tab template project, and this is going to give me the expo example, and then I'll be able to also start my expo development server, which will allow me to connect using QR codes via Android and iOS.
One eternity later.
Alright, so my project is finished, or my project is finished downloading, excuse me. So then after that is done, it tells me what to do. CD, change directory into that folder that was just created, and then I do my npm start, which runs expo start, which starts the development server. Okay, so from here I can run on an emulator for Android or iOS. I can run in the web browser. I can send a link to someone via email, or I could publish the project out. So also I can switch depending on how my machine is configured, etc. One of these different ones might work. Same with the QR code, right? You might have to play around with that a little bit. But one of the easiest ways, usually how I start, is just running in the web browser, right? So this can show you the hot reload and allow you to edit and manage the project. And also then, of course, test with Android and iOS directly too. So here's our tabbed example. So there's our expo example folder, okay? And here's our example in the web browser. I've got tabs at the bottom, get started, and resources. And it shows me basically where to go to find stuff. So open up the code for this screen. This is in screens. So there's a folder that holds all the screens. There's a home screen and a link screen. And there's homescreen.js. So I could go in here, change this file, and it will automatically reload. So I save that change, and then I see the changes here automatically. So that's hot reload. That's a feature that Android Studio, VS Code, a lot of IDEs have now. Important feature, allows you to be able to make changes quickly. Pretty cool. See exactly how they work on the screen. So I've got get started and resources, and I've got home screen, which is get started, and resources, which is my links screen, right? So this tab bar at the bottom, it tells me I can edit that in navigation and bottom tab navigator. So there's my series, bottom tab screen, home, bottom tab screen, links, etc. So I could add more screens and more tabs at the bottom. Like I could take this links tab, let's say that I want to have a resources list for React Native, and then a resources list for Angular. So we've got this, just to put something in there. And this will be our links A instead. So there's our React Native and our Angular resources. So we can make changes, see those changes show up live, right? So then I've got my link screen here. Maybe I'll copy this, paste it, and I'll make this this is going to be my link screen Angular, and link screen angular. So my bottom screen is going to pull in a, oops, screen angular component. And then if I go to my link screen angular here, I could change these. Let's see, we change these to read Angular documentation, and then ask a question. Let's see, there is our hot reload, and then I could look up where that Angular documentation is. Change my link to use that kind of thing. So the idea here is basically to check out React Native and get this part set up first as part of that process, and then the second step is to get in here and start figuring out, okay, what is React Native doing versus if we use like Flutter and Dart, right? With Flutter and Dart, we have a series of widgets, and here we have components, right? So we've got, let's take a look back on our screen here. So here's our links A. This has a scroll view, okay, with a series of option buttons inside of it, right? So I could have a whole bunch of these guys. And my scroll view will handle the scrolling, handle that for me, okay? Without me having to do anything different. So I didn't have to build the scroll view from scratch, right? This is a component that came as a part of this already. So that's the general idea, is getting used to how all these projects are set up and what components are available. So once we do this, we set this up, play around with this a little bit, do kind of like what I did, make some changes to the navigation, add a new page, see how that works. Then the next step after that is looking at all these different React Native examples. So there's a whole series. Let me see which one's my favorite. This one was pretty cool. So these are a series of different React Native components. So if we look at one of these guys, let's see what this one looks like. Here's instructions for installing this one, and we have a similar kind of idea, right? Some of these you can view on Snack. I don't know if, it looks like that one hasn't been updated, so you'd be better off downloading that one. They all probably have similar kinds of setup. npm install, same kind of idea. Pick one of these guys, download them via npm install, try it out, post it in the forums, and again the exam is posted too. But check these guys out. There's so many different ones that you can play with. They're super fun. Play around with those, and then we will see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.